on our broadcast tonight. 29 days since the nation's biggest maritime disaster, 5 more bodies have been recovered, and the prosecution has put the ferry owner family on their Class A most wanted list. The official death toll in a Turkish mine explosion is growing and growing fast, now at 201 people. More than 200 remain stranded inside. And the rise of the Korean currency has taken a toll of the nation's exporters. Korea's export prices in April dipped to their lowest level in more than 6 years. Early edition begins now.
I see trees of green, red
늘 남편 먼저,
I see them
늘 자식 먼저.
for me and
레이디 퍼스트라는 말을 믿고 살아온 당신. 오늘만큼은 세상 누구보다 당신이 먼저입니다. 한 분 한 분 특별하게 모시겠습니다.
Excellence in Flight, Korean Air.
It is 5 a.m. in New York, noon in Ankara, and 6 on a Wednesday evening here in Seoul. This is Early Edition at 6, live from Seoul. I'm Moon Gonyo.
And I'm Daniel Che. Thank you for joining us.
It's been nearly a month since the Sewol-ho ferry capsized off Korea's southwestern coast, and search operations continue for the 23 people that remain unaccounted for. Now, on this Wednesday, 5 more bodies were recovered.
Meanwhile, prosecutors have taken investigations into the shadowy family network that owned the ferry a step higher as they put one of the suspects on a most wanted list. Our Kwon So-hwa has the latest developments.
There was a mistake with the numbers. The rescue operation is being carried out simultaneously by private and public authorities, so we are prone to making mistakes.
The way authorities have handled the Sewol-ho ferry disaster from the moment the boat started to experience problems has been the subject of harsh criticism. Nearly a month after that fateful day, state auditors have begun a special investigation into whether the government neglected its duties. The Board of Audit and Inspection has deployed a 50-person team to inspect the ministries and agencies responsible for the disaster response. These include the Ministries of Oceans and Fisheries, the Coast Guard, as well as shipping associations related to the sunken ferry. Auditors will focus on whether the government's response was appropriate and if rescue operations progress strategically. The construction, management, and operational procedures of passenger ships will also be scrutinized. Further on, the audit team will look into how the government is supervising safety measures. Meanwhile, prosecutors are looking into putting more pressure on Yoo Dae-gyun, the first son of the practical owner of the Sewol-ho ferry, Yoo Byung-on. They put him on their Class A most wanted list on Wednesday, one day after raiding his house, which means he will be arrested on the spot once he is found. There are concerns he may attempt to flee the country if he already hasn't. Prosecutors have summoned his father, Yoo Byung-on, for questioning on Friday, and they say they expect him to appear. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
And in Seoul's National Assembly, for the first time since the Sewol-ho ferry accident, members of the government found themselves in the hot seat facing tough questions from lawmakers about the initial crisis response.
The grilling came from both sides of the political aisle. Our Chae Yu-sun has more.
Lawmakers from both the ruling and opposition camps lobbed criticism at officials during a government report saying their mismanagement of the accident led to its disastrous outcome. Jin Sun-mi of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy revealed details of a phone conversation between emergency operators and the Coast Guard in the early moments of the crisis. In it, the head of the emergency operator repeatedly asked the Coast Guard to bring the rescue to an area where high-level officials were standing by instead of an island closer to the accident site. The lawmakers said the conversation conflicted with what the Coast Guard had said about rescuing all the passengers being its top priority. Close to tears, Tin said formalities came before the safety of the 400-plus passengers inside the capsizing ship. In response to the accusations, the National Emergency Management Agency, in a written statement, said the request to send survivors elsewhere was made to speed up the medical treatment. Influential figures within the ruling Saenuri party were also highly critical of the government. Accusing the government of being corrupt and lax, lawmaker Lee Jae-oh asked why it took officials an hour to first report the accident to the president. Lawmakers Heo Chung-won said Security Minister Kang Byung-gyu lacks crisis management abilities and should step down immediately. Seo added he would introduce a bill this week that calls for a probe into the causes of the ferry disaster, compensation for the victims and their families, punishment of those found responsible, and a reform plan to bolster national emergency response. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Threats and insults are flying back and forth between the two Koreas. North Korea threatened to wipe out the South Korean government Tuesday, a day after a South Korean official said the North must disappear soon. Arirang News' Hwang Sung-hee shows us where inter-Korean relations might be headed.
The recent spate of verbal attacks between the two Koreas is eroding hopes of an improvement in inter-Korean ties. The latest barb was North Korea's threat to wipe out the South Korean government. So what sparked such fury? It was South Korean Defense Ministry spokesperson Kim Min-seok's unusually blunt remark on Monday.
Can North Korea even be regarded as a country? Is there human rights? Is there freedom? It continues to make false claims that are historically retrograde. It's a country that cannot exist and should disappear soon.
North Korea's powerful National Defense Commission said Tuesday the comments mirrored South Korea's ambitions for reunification based on the South absorbing the North. It said the North Korean people are demanding an all-out attack on Seoul and vowed to wipe out President Park Geun-hye and her military officials entirely with merciless force. The two Koreas had agreed earlier this year to end all cross-border slandering. That promise was broken by Pyongyang about a month later, after the South Korean leader gave a reunification speech in Dresden, Germany, and laid out her vision for a reunified Korea. Since then, the North has been hurling sexist remarks at President Park, calling her names like an old prostitute. Seoul's Unification Ministry on Wednesday urged Pyongyang for an immediate end to such derogatory attacks. Experts say the intensifying war of words will lead to a prolonged confrontation between the two Koreas.
With no progress in resolving the North Korean nuclear issue and the two Koreas constantly exchanging negative words, inter-Korean relations will be on thin ice for the time being.
But they say the possibility of the verbal battle leading to a North Korean provocation, like a fourth nuclear test, remains slim for now. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
And America's top negotiator on North Korean affairs says Washington maintains close contact with Beijing when dealing with North Korea issues. Glenn Davies was speaking at the Center for Strategic and International Policy in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. He said North Korea is a regular on the table during talks with its Chinese counterparts. Well, according to the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy, China is well prepared for a possible provocation by Pyongyang, and it also has plans of its own to firmly deal with a variety of emergency scenarios on the Korean peninsula. When asked about the resumption of the six-party talks on the North nuclear program, Davies said it would be difficult right now because of the current tensions.
Over in Turkey, a mine explosion has left scores dead and hundreds more trapped, some 2 kilometers underground. A massive rescue operation is underway to get the trapped miners out. For more, here's our Kim Hyun-bin.
At least 201 people are confirmed dead, and more than 200 others are believed to be trapped after an explosion at a coal mine in western Turkey. The blast happened early Tuesday, local time, at a privately owned mine in the town of Soma, some 250 kilometers south of Istanbul. Local officials believe the collapse came after a power distribution unit exploded during a shift change, which they explain for the confusion about the number unaccounted for. Turkey's emergency minister says close to 800 people were inside the mine at the time of the accident. 363 people have been rescued so far. the country's disaster agency has launched a massive rescue operation. Air is being pumped into the mine, which sits approximately 2 kilometers below ground. Hundreds of people have been gathering at a hospital in Soma and at the accident site for news about their loved ones. Rescue workers are facing a difficult task, as the mine was made up of long tunnels. The owner of the mine says his facility was run with the highest safety measures and constant controls. He added the main priority was getting the trapped workers out, so they may be reunited with their families. The disaster is poised to be the worst mining disaster in Turkey since 1992, when 263 miners lost their lives in a gas explosion. Mining accidents are common in Turkey due to poor safety conditions. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
In exactly 3 weeks from today, Koreans will head to the polls to cast ballots in the June 4th local elections.
Analysts expect voter turnout to be around 50%, which is what it was during local elections held 4 years ago.
Right, the recent string of man-made disasters in the nation has resulted in public distrust of the government, and safety reforms is emerging as the #1 campaign issue among candidates.
We're now joined live from the news center by our Kim Young-gil. He will walk us through the lead-up to the big day. Young-gil?
Good evening, guys. Election day is just 21 days away, but the political atmosphere is fairly toned down this year due to unfortunate tragedies in recent weeks, namely the Sewol-ho ferry accident. Now let's first take a look at the timeline leading up to the election day. All candidates will officially register this Thursday and Friday. That leads into the first official day of campaigning next week on May 22nd. Voting day is June 4th, but for the first time ever in a local election here, voters will be able to cast early ballots on May 30th and 31st.
Well, Myung-gil, I'm sure the candidates are busy and just about to get only busier in the coming days. What are some of the more highly contested voting grounds to watch out for, Myung-gil?
Yes, Kanyang, the ruling Saenuri Party and main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy will be going head-to-head in the bigger races. Each party has 17 candidates for metropolitan and provincial posts. The one for Seoul mayor will be watched closely as incumbent Park Won-soon goes up against Saenuri Party political heavyweight Chung Mong-jun. The city of Incheon will also see a heated race between Mayor Song Young-gil versus conservative Yu Jong-bok. In the city of Gwangju, the ruling party's Lee Jung-jae will go head-to-head with the main opposition's Yoon Jang-hyun. The Gyeonggi-do province governor's seat will be between the Saenuri Party's Nam Kyung-pil and MPAD's Kim Jin-pyo.
And of course, these races are so important because they will lay some very strong foundations.
That's right. Political analysts say the metropolitan areas are important as they hold half of Korea's total population, and the seats are seen as a stepping stone to the presidential ticket.
Korea's Gyeongsang-do and Jeolla-do provinces are strong footholds for the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition party. However, the metropolitan areas of Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi-do province are free from political regionalism. They can sway the outcome of votes as the regions make up half of Korea's population. The seats are seen as a ticket to the presidential elections.
Well, Myung-gil, the Sewol-ho ferry disaster promised to dominate the campaign for sure. How are you expecting the tragedy to affect not just the campaigns, but how people vote as well?
Well, Kanyang, there has been a noticeable lack of political warfare since the Sewol-ho ferry accident last month. But that is expected to change after the rival parties complete their candidate registration this week. Full-scale campaigning starts next week on May 22nd, and we expect a lot of talk about the ruling party. Political analysts say every election is used to measure the incumbent government.
The outcome of the local elections will be regarded as a major litmus test of the Park Geun-hye administration, which entered its second year in February. It will be an evaluation of how the government manages state affairs and the Sewol-ho ferry disaster.
If the ruling party wins the major races on June 4th, it's expected to empower the government, despite the pressure it's been under over the way it's handled one of the country's worst maritime disasters. The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy, on the other hand, is trying to gain a political foothold. Its election platform will be state crisis management reforms in response to the mounting public demands for a safer nation. Expect the opposition alliance to intensify its attacks against the ruling party and the Park administration in the coming weeks.
Well, it doesn't take a genius to guess, including yours truly, that we can obviously expect most of the pledges to be surrounded on the country's safety system, right, Myung-gyun?
Yes, it's true. The country's insufficient safety measures and lack of capacity to handle such accidents are likely to dominate during the campaign period.
We expect the candidates to prioritize safety issues. We expect them to pledge massive reforms on their safety management systems of cities. Local governments will likely set up special departments dedicated solely to crisis and also reinforce safety personnel.
Well, most certainly we will have to wait until the election day for the results to see just how the public sways in favor of which political party and who the people trust more to institute change that we need. Well, that was our political correspondent, Kim Young-gil. Thank you.
Sure.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gon-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
And for a dose of some economic news, about a week has passed since the Korean won started trading at the 1,020 level against the U.S. dollar. Now, the hardest hit by this strengthening domestic currency are Korean exporters. Here's our correspondent Na Hyun-kyung with a detailed explanation.
Korea's export price index for April fell to its lowest since January 2008. The Bank of Korea says the index stood at 88.3, down 2.5% from the previous month. That means Korean companies are making less profit when they're exporting the same amount of products due to the strengthening local currency. 340 companies recently surveyed by the Korea International Trade Association say they can make reasonable profits when the won trades against the greenback at 1,073 won on average. The break-even rate for them was at 1,045 won, and the fact that Korea's currency has been trading at 1,021 level for the past week is not helping their profit margins. Trade Minister Yoon Sang-jik convened a meeting on Wednesday and promised the government support in monitoring and managing the exchange rate. At the same time, he called on small and mid-sized companies to be on the lookout for exchange risks themselves. The minister also suggested taking this as an opportune time to reduce costs and tap into new markets, but some observers say even if that was possible, it would take a long time to achieve those goals. The Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency says trade conditions will be better in the latter half of the year, but not because of a weak Korean won, but because Korea's exports to China will likely improve. Na Hyun-kyung, Arirang News.
And on the trading floor in Seoul today, shares climbed to their strongest closing level this year this Wednesday, fueled by robust foreign capital inflows, while the won reversed earlier gains to finish weaker unsuspected dollar purchases by local authorities. Well, propelled by a rise in foreign buyers of tech and auto shares, the Kospi closed at just under 2,011 points, which is up nearly 28 points from the previous day's close. This is the first time the index has broken through the 2010 mark since December 30th. Now, analysts expect the foreign buying to continue with more of a focus on automobiles and utilities. The Korean currency, meanwhile, strengthened by more than 5% against the greenback, closing at just under 1,028 won.
Samsung Electronics has officially apologized and promised compensation to workers who've gotten incurable diseases or died after working at semiconductor production facilities there. For more, here's our Park Ji-won.
After years of denials, Samsung Electronics has offered an official apology to its former workers who are suffering from or have died from diseases allegedly brought on by their working environments. The tech giant's CEO Kwon Oh-hyun made the announcement on Wednesday, saying the company was sincerely sorry for having neglected the pain of the victims and their families and for not having settled the issue earlier. The company promised proper compensation and said it would abide by decisions made by an independent third-party panel of mediators. Samsung Electronics also vowed to check the safety of its semiconductor production facilities and to come up with concrete measures to prevent the recurrence of such incidents. The world's leading semiconductor manufacturer also vowed to withdraw itself from participation in all ongoing trials regarding cancelled compensation claims. The overall dispute came to light in 2007 when Hwang Yu-mi, a former employee at a Samsung semiconductor production plant, died of leukemia at the age of 23. Similar cases followed, with employees dying of rare blood-related diseases. Family members attribute their exposure to chemicals at factories as the cause. However, Samsung had denied the claim and resisted offering an apology. While Samsung continues to deny a direct correlation between the diseases and the working environment at its plants, Wednesday's apology represents a change in attitude. The apology came about a month after Shim Sang-jung, a Progressive Party lawmaker, called on Samsung and the government to apologize to the more than 200 workers who developed rare cancers or died after working at semiconductor plants. 박지원, Arirang News.
It's a sad day for true blue Asian soccer fans around the world. The man that made hundreds of highlight reels in history along the way, footballer Park Jisung, announced his retirement from the sport today. Our Kim Min-ji has more on the man who earned deserving love and respect for his tireless work ethic that overshadowed his talent.
After 100 international matches and a professional career that dates back to 2000, Korea's most decorated footballer is hanging up his cleats. Park Ji-sung announced his retirement on Wednesday, citing chronic knee problems.
I've been considering retirement since February. I've concluded that my knee won't be able to last another season.
Throughout his career, the former national team captain has raised the reputation of Korean football thanks to his energy and strong work ethic. Park made his professional debut with Japan's Kyoto Purple Sanga in 2000. After grabbing the spotlight at the 2002 World Cup hosted by Korea and Japan, he joined PSV Eindhoven, where he played for almost 3 years, building up his professional career. He played for the Korean national team in the following 2 World Cups, scoring goals in each tournament. In 2005, Park became the first Korean to play in the English Premier League with Manchester United. He spent 7 seasons there, winning 4 Premier League titles as well as a UEFA League trophy. Park signed with the Queen's Park Rangers in 2012 and began the season as the team's captain. He returned to PSV last year on loan from the Rangers and appeared in 23 matches. When asked to assess his career, Park gave himself a 7 out of 10. He recalled the 2002 World Cup as the moment he wants most to return to. But for now, Park will be looking ahead to marriage. He is scheduled to wed former TV announcer Kim Min-ji on July 27th, and the two plan to live in Europe. Beyond marriage, Park said he will also think about how he can return the support he received from his fans and how to help Korean football. Although he's retiring, Park will be seen on the pitch again. He has 2 friendly matches scheduled for later this month and also plans to hold a charity match in July, which will be his last game. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Well, another early summer-like weather today in the nation's capital. But for more on the weather conditions, let's go over to our Michelle Park. Michelle.
Well, today was a mild sunny day over the nation, although heavy rain is coming down right now in the southern region.
And I also understand rain is supposed to move north tomorrow?
That's right. By tomorrow, we can expect light showers in the northwestern region, but a mild sunny day is expected elsewhere. Now, also be advised that a dry weather advisory is still in effect, and along with these conditions, an ozone advisory that was in effect has been lifted at 4 p.m. local time, but stay alert because even the relatively low levels can actually cause health effects, especially for children and elders. Now, going over to our temperature readings, Seoul tops out at 13 before reaching up to 22 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will peak up to 28 and 26 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island tops out at 21, Dokdo at 22, while Mankungang tops out at 16. Now, as for tomorrow's weather conditions in Chindo at the site of the Sewol ferry disaster, stronger tides are expected and they'll continue until Sunday. And during that time, the tides are expected to be the strongest since the accident 1 month ago. Well, that's all I have at this moment. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you guys.
Thank you for that, Michelle. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thank you for watching. For our viewers in Korea, have a wonderful rest of the evening. This has been Daniel Chen.
And I'm Moon Ganyang. To those of you in other parts of the world, have a great start of the day, and we hope to see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.